I got names for people like you round here.
Yeah, like want to help.
Well, I've a right to be upset. Bloody vultures, the lot of you. Look, I've yelled about it till I'm blue in the face and no one's taken a blind bit of notice. I'll tell you this for nothing. They did something to him. He's not right. Nothing he does is right. It's like I've got a stranger walking about instead of my nephew. Look, he was always a little so-and-so. His mam, my sister, rest her soul, wasn't the best sort herself. I know I shouldn't speak ill of the dead, but she were in trouble more than that. So when she passed, it were take the lad in, or he'd be carted off into care. I chatted with the vicar about it. I prayed on it, and I said I'd have him. I don't regret that. It were the right thing to do. I'll admit it. I weren't there all the time. I'm a nurse, so I'm on shift a lot. But he had a roof over his head, food in his belly, and clothes. More than he'd have had in one of them homes, and I made sure he knew that. All he had to do was keep his room in some sort of order and look after the dog. He was fine with the latter, but getting him to do the former was like pulling teeth. But if that were it, I'd chalk it up as a win, and that'd be that. The thieving, the lying, the fights. Like I get it. He'd lived in a council estate all his life. There's different rules there. All the kids are animals, and the grown-ups know better, so's I can tell from the papers. Around here, people don't truck with that nonsense. He'd always have some excuse. They're making it up, he'd say. They took the mick out of him for his accent. Far as I see it, there's no reason to get into a fight, much less take a brick to someone. I thought they were bloody lucky the vicar got involved there and the police weren't called. So when I goes to church and the deacon asked me to stay after service to chat about things, it was all I could do to not bury my face in my hands in shame. We met at the rectory office. Vicar were there with two people. They had that look about them. Police of some sort, but not local. They asked me to sit down and said these folk were here to talk about with me. I didn't dare say anything. I don't know why. Just something about it felt off. Not dangerous, not to me, but like if I asked any questions, I weren't going to like the answers. They said they'd been notified about by the vicar. Started listing off all the things he got into. I tell you what, for half of it I hadn't heard of. I were gobsmacked. How did they know this stuff about my nephew that I didn't? My head was spinning. It was then that the vicar spoke up. Said that these folk work with the youth groups and church organisations all over the country. That they were starting up a new programme and that they could get his police record cleared. I asked him, what record? Far as I know, he'd never been charged with anything, much less convicted. They said the lad's parents, the one he took the brick to, had gone to the police after all. They had witnesses, photos, the lot. The police were going to come round Monday morning and arrest him. They only held off a bit because he'd reached out to these folk and they intervened. I asked why they did that. Not that I weren't grateful, I made sure to add. It just looked like one of them gift horse situations. I didn't want to queer the deal none. They said it was just the kind of child they want to help. And me being a nurse and providing a vital public service helped too. They said they're looking to expand their program to help more children, and our story would look good in the papers. I were too shocked to think so when the vicar said it were best to sign the papers, and I just did it. I didn't even read it. He's a vicar. The way I was raised is if they ask you to do something, you do it. It's for the best. They said they'd be round later to collect him. Didn't need to pack much. They had it all ready and waiting. Any medication or such, maybe a toothbrush and some toiletries that weren't strictly necessary. Their institution would provide for all his needs. He slid a small Bible across the desk to me. Said they didn't allow outside reading materials, but a Bible was an exception. He said he'd made a few notes in there that might help him on his journey. He'd find them when the time was right. Said the Lord would guide his hand when it was needed, like they'd guided these people to us at this moment. But it weren't the Lord who brought these people here. It were him. He started this. He's the one you need to be asking for answers, not me. Vicar or not, if I see him again, I'll wring his bloody neck